Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Welcome here at Crypto Hash Review, where we educate and disseminate information about Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies from a Muslim perspective. Today, we're going to go through the analogy of spending or sending and receiving Bitcoin. Now, this is kind of similar to what we mentioned before about addresses. We mentioned addresses. You could say are locations where you could put money into an envelope and you put it into that address that for the post box, and the owner of the address can unlock the funds that's within that home. You get the gist. But this analogy here, we're going to do slightly different. We're going to take it slightly differently, which is more in line with kind of what happens. Also, it builds on what we covered before. So imagine I wish to purchase a car. So I say to the person who I want to buy the car from, can I buy that car for 1 ounce of gold? And he says, fine, hand over the gold then. So I'll say to him, I would, but I don't have it at the moment. I've left it with Ra'is al-Qarya, the leader of the village. Because he's trustworthy and everyone trusts him, and I just leave my money with him. He looks after it for me. And his name is Majid. So Majid, Sheikh Majid, Ra'is al-Qarya, the leader of the village, he has my gold. But what I'll do, I will write for you a message, or write a message to him saying that I have given permission to Majid to hand over ownership of my 1 ounce of gold to him, and I will sign it. So like we said before, so now I would write that message, sign that message, and hand it to my son. So, son, ya waladi, son, idhab ila ra'is al-qarya. Go to the leader of the village and hand this message to him. So effectively, I have transmitted the transaction. I've transmitted that he is now the owner of that ounce of gold. Now, between him leaving me and getting to the leader of the village, it takes time, obviously. He has to get there. And then when he gets to the leader of the village, the leader says, Ta'ali walad, what's the problem? He said, yeah, I have a letter from my dad about his gold. You got a letter from your dad about his gold. What is he saying? Read it. I mean, I'm just a messenger. Cool. So then the messenger, the Isa al-Qarya, Majid, he takes the letter and he says, you know what? I will read it, but not now. I've got so many other things to do. I have a whole table full of letters to read. He's just one of loads of other tables or letters. So I'll put it on the pile. So then my son says, no. My dad wants it done immediately. You do it now, please. So then the miner, the Ra'is al-Qari would say, okay, I mean, why should I put your dad's transaction at the top of the pile? He came late. These guys were here before. Why should I put his transaction, his letter, at the top of the pile? And so his son says, okay, look, his dad said, look, here's the extra couple of pounds just to jump the queue. You could say, I'm incentivizing you, I'm encouraging you to put my transaction at the top of the pile. I said, khalas, that's fine. I'll take that, inshallah. Give hat. So I take the letter, I take the extra cash because I'm doing work, I'm doing something, and I prioritize the letter. So I put it at the top. I open the letter. What's the letter saying? Now this guy, he now owns this gold. So he updates his records, and that's it. Now the owner of the car, he's like, okay, the message has been sent, but is it been confirmed? As in, has the ownership of that gold been confirmed? Is it mine now, or is it still in his ownership? So what the guy can do is he can ask any one of the huffaz, those who've memorized the ledger, the record of account from the leader of the village, and say, let's look. Yeah, we see the transaction here. It's in the records. Now it's his. Now essentially the gold is still stuck in the same vault of the Ra'is al-Qari. It's still there, hasn't moved. But the ownership, who owns that vault, has now been updated on the records, on the permanent records. It now belongs to the other guy. So the other guy now has ownership of that. That's essentially what happens when you send money. Money doesn't actually move anywhere. What happens is the ownership, the record of who owns it, is updated. Just like we had in the Yap Island example, the ownership of that is updated. And that has interesting ramifications if you think about it. Because if the gold is always in one place, but it's just the information of who owns it is updated, that means that you could be anywhere on planet Earth and you can transact with that piece of gold. And that's essentially what happens to this day. Sometimes people can send, receive, you could say, or spend their gold virtually, as in from afar. All they do is update those who are holding that gold, that then the ownership has now moved to somebody else. Now, historically speaking, this, you could say, record was the certificate. If you remember in our earlier videos when we described the history of money, we mentioned that there was a period of time where mankind had the certificate, the piece of paper that indicated that the owner of the certificate owns the piece of gold. So when you transacted, you actually gave them the certificate of ownership. However, in this scenario we have here, there is no real certificate. It's just a database that exists in a location with the leader of the village, and we've just updated him the information. We just said to him, by the way, he now owns that gold, and that is the scenario updated. So when we say send and receive, what we really mean is send the message that he now owns that gold, and you can say when you say receive it, you can say received ownership. Now here's another scenario. Imagine the person who was selling his car and receiving this money. He didn't trust that boy. That boy, he might not send the message. I don't trust him. I want to send it myself. Give me the letter. I'll go to Sheikh Majid and I'll give it to him myself. That's perfectly fine. I've now given him a piece of paper, almost like a check, given him permission for ownership to be changed over. Now he himself goes to Majid, he hands it to him himself and makes sure that Majid gets the letter to finalize the transaction. Even that can happen with Bitcoin. I can actually give you the digital transaction and you can broadcast it and send it yourself to the miners. So this is essentially the analogy of how the Bitcoin network occurs. Every time you send Bitcoin or receive Bitcoin, all you're really doing is sending a message to the world, updating everybody that you're giving some Bitcoin that you have to another address, or you're transferring Bitcoin that you have in one address to another address, and it just gets updated on a international global network record. I hope you found this video useful and informative. Please like this video, subscribe to our channel, press the bell button as well. And if you want to have a chat with us, you can find our details on our website, cryptohashreview.com, where we have many articles talking and teaching about Bitcoin and its relationship with Islam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.